coming from you, I know that these people who have been saying, I'm not a comrade, will shut up their mouths now. Mr. President, thank you for this privilege that you have granted me.
Point of order, Senator Diri Doe. I rule you out of order.
Mr. President, I believe very sincerely in moving this motion that no time in life is too late. Mr. President, this motion that I move today on the urgent need for the intervention of the Senate on the militia attack on Okokolo people in Agatu local government of Benue State is co-sponsored by Distinguished Senator Susu and Deborah Towua, Benue Northeast, Distinguished Senator Balogun Kola Ademola, Oyo South, Distinguished Senator Oke Jeff Emmanuel Yisa, Benue Northwest, and Distinguished Senator Ekunife Uche Lilian, Anambra Central. Mr. President, let me also place it on record that many of my colleagues also would have been on this list, but for the urgent need for me to present this motion as quickly as possible. The Senate notes that the people of Benue South Senatorial District are peace-loving people, and the state, from its inception, has been a fertile land. The state is a good ground for agricultural activities. Most of the inhabitants are agrarian by nature, and owing to the agricultural potential of the state, it is usually referred to as the food basket of the nation. Concerned that Agatu local government area, which happens to be one of the local governments within my senatorial district, has continuously suffered untold hardships due to persistent clashes between herdsmen and farmers. Further note that the attack on the armless, helpless, and innocent people of Okoklu in Agatu local government area and its environs by armed militia is unfortunate. Worried with deep concern that on the 30th of June 2019, there was an attack on my constituents in a church in Okoklu town in Agatu local government area, which led to the death of over 25 persons, worshippers, and this has created fears, anxieties, and agonies among the settlers, leading them to desert their homes. Regrets that the illegal proliferation of small arms and light weapons has contributed in no small measure to the attack on Okoklo town. Note with sympathy that this dastardly act are being perpetrated against innocent persons of the Benue South Senatorial District despite several peace agreements or accords entered into by the parties. Concerned that the protracted crisis within these agrarian settlements presently will result in food shortages across the country, since farmers are finding it increasingly unsafe to go to their farms for the fears of being attacked. And acknowledging and noting the danger inherent in the continuous deterioration of the security situation across the nation, which has already led to massive refugee crisis, it has become absolutely necessary for us in the Senate to act immediately to forestall further loss of lives and properties. Accordingly, the Senate resolves, 1, to strongly condemn the attacks in Agatu communities and observe a minute's silence for the souls of the departed. 2, direct the National Emergency Management Agency to immediately intervene to provide succor to the people of Okoklo in Agatu local government area. 3, urge the federal government to take proactive measures to curtail insecurity and malicious killings ravaging states of the Federation. 4, urge the relevant security agencies to be proactive in order to forestall future occurrences. And 5, urge all relevant security agencies to intensify the mop-up of small arms and light weapons in circulation across the states of the Federation. Mr. President, I so move.
Mr. President, I'm Senator Tohuwa Suswam, representing Benue Northeast. Mr. President, for the past almost 2 months that we've been inaugurated here, issues that have preoccupied here on this floor, most of the motions here, border on security issues. Mr. President, it was you who decided about a week or two that there is an urgent need for us to convoke a security summit where all the stakeholders will be invited to address the security challenges of this country. What my colleague and brother has brought here is not different from the other security challenges that have occurred in other parts of the state. On a daily basis, we experience these attacks. It is curious, Mr. President, that we've not had any serious arrests by the security agencies. So there is a need to even fast-track this security summit that you alluded to sometimes. Because these people go in groups. They go in groups to make these attacks. And every time security agencies are unable to arrest even one person, when they parade people after about 1 week, you will not hear anything. So I think, Mr. President, that since this has become a recurring decimal across the country, the security attacks, there's a need for us, while we continue to talk about it and comment about it, let us assure Nigerians that we are here to talk and address issues that affect them. And so I want to, as a Benue son, to agree with my colleague and brother that there should be palliatives, as has been mentioned in this motion, palliatives sent to the victims. Because if we go there, Mr. President, as governor, I had cause to visit this particular area as a result of an attack. And this attack, if it comes in today, comes in tomorrow, and the security people are not ready or able to identify areas where it is coming from, then there is something wrong somewhere. So I think the best thing, this motion is straightforward, Mr. President. I know that a lot of colleagues will want to discuss it. But, Mr. President, as a way of diversion, since we resume here, this hall has never been so depleted today. Today that you mentioned list of ministers, Mr. President, a lot of people have suddenly left. And so, but that is just a way of, it's an aside. But, Mr. President, I want to support my colleagues on the above that palliatives should be sent by NEMA to this victim. Because if we go there, it's completely ravaged. So we need to actually send in some palliative to them. So, Mr. President, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, Jeff. I represent Benue Northwest. My dear colleagues, here we go again. Another day, another motion on insecurity. As Chairman Rules and Business of the 8th House of Representatives, I did a little research, and I came up with nearly 190 motions on insecurity alone of the 8th Assembly, that is the House of Representatives. And of course, quite a few hours of cumulatively, that is, of 1-minute prayer. And it became so protracted that at a point, pursuant to a resolution, we called all the security chiefs to the chambers of the House of Representatives and locked ourselves in. And for 4 hours or more, we were trying to find a solution to the problem. But it continued. And like they say, I think it's progress in Babylon, 1 step forward, 2 steps backward. It continued as normal. The 8th Assembly, the 8th Senate too, I'm aware, was sufficiently bothered and organized a security summit. I also attended. Now we are in the 9th Assembly.
and it's more of the same. Of course, we can't relax because the main reason why we are here, according to the Constitution in Section 14, subsection 2B, is that we are here to provide for the welfare and security of our people. So as long as the matter continues, we cannot rest. That is why I'm on all fours with your proposed plan again to convoke a security summit. Maybe we didn't get it right the last time, and we should do it this time around. The people of Agatu are particularly unlucky. In 2016, I recall, between 300 to 400 persons were killed in one incident. We made a lot of noise about it. We went to the media. We brought the motion on the floor of the House of Representatives, where I was then. Everything that could be done was done to draw attention to the problem. Well, to be fair, for some time, it appeared to have abated in Agatu, but other areas of Benue took their own share. Because when it comes to matters of insecurity in this country, I've discovered that federal character is faithfully obeyed. Nobody is left out. And so, as long as we have the constitutional mandate to look out for the welfare and security of our people, we cannot rest until that is done. So I support this motion with all the prayers that have been asked, so that pending when the security summit comes up, we'll try to bring the palliatives so that the people will know that government is there to take care of them. Thank you.
Senator Uche Lilian Ekunefe.
Uche Lilian Ekunefe. Mr. President, I represent Anambra Central from Anambra State. First of all, Mr. President, let me express my condolences to my brother for the loss of the people from his senatorial district. Mr. President, let me take Senate to the 6th line in this motion. It says that Senate notes with sympathy that these dastardly acts are being perpetrated against innocent persons of Benue South, despite several peace agreements or accords entered into by the parties. This shows that this is an internal problem. Mr. President, every day we come to the floor of this Senate, we observe 1 minute silence for people that died either by herdsmen, farmers clash, or by armed robbers, or by kidnappers, or any other security threat. Mr. President, in as much as we propose for the Conference on Security Summit, I want to state categorically that time has come when we think Mr. President should address this nation when it comes to security. Security threat is becoming everyday occurrence. We know what happened in Abuja yesterday. That happened between the National Assembly, the executive, and judiciary. It's already inside our house. Are we going to continue like this? Mr. President, you can't travel from Abuja to Kaduna without seeing armed robbers attacking people. From Lagos to Ore, the same. From Abuja to Kogi, everywhere in this country is not safe. Mr. President, it is the same Benue that last year, 2 years ago, that Reverend fathers were slaughtered inside a church, a sacred place. If somebody could enter a church to kill a reverend father, what would that person not do? Mr. President, security is getting out of hand. And the most important aspect of it is that we have succeeded in sectionalizing the security threats in our country. When it happens in Lagos, people will divert it. It happens in Anambra, people will divert it to another section. We have sectionalized it to the extent that it has eroded us the objectivity of critically analyzing the security issues in this country to provide solutions. How are we going to start? If the people we are representing do not have confidence anymore in leadership to secure their lives, what are we going to do? I thank God that we have a Senate President today that is responsible, that can respond to the needs of this country. Mr. President, so much is being expected from you and these three chambers. We must be able to provide security for our citizens. We must be able to be seen as leaders who care for their constituents. And in doing that, Mr. President, We also have to use the National Orientation Agency, an agency of this government that is quite important, but we are not looking that side, to educate the citizens. The citizens have civic responsibility of reporting the happenings around their environment. These armed robbers, they come from our environment, they socialize with us, either in the church or mosque, or in the market or social gathering. People should be able to be educated to come up with information. We have about 200 million Nigerians with about 500,000 security people, personnel. Are they going to be everywhere at the same time? The answer is no. Citizens must help them to do their work by reporting the incident or activities around them. The time has come when we need to have information boxes in mosques, in churches, in supermarkets, in some critical areas, so that citizens can come and drop information they have inside those boxes for them to bring them out and analyze and be able to help to get information about those threatening our lives. Mr. President, while thanking you for giving me the opportunity to air my, to put up comments on this, I want to plead that time has come when the leadership of this nation must address Nigerian security issues. Our citizens are beginning to lose confidence in government to protect them and protect their properties. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I join my colleagues in supporting this motion and also use this opportunity to empathize with the people of Agatu in Benue State. I use the word empathize, Mr. President, because in 2012, I lost my junior brother, a lieutenant in the army, in this same Agatu. 2 years after leaving NDA, he got caught in this farmers-herdsmen clash. You can imagine, Mr. President, the millions used in training young officers, only for them to die that way. But that is not the point, Mr. President, today. The issue here has been said, it's about security. Herdsmen, farmers. It wasn't like this when we were growing up. So something must be wrong somewhere. Unfortunately, it would appear it has been politicized. Mr. President, on Friday, I had the opportunity of speaking with you privately, and I know how passionate you are about this issue of security in this country. Mr. President, if it's a legacy you leave, I want you to do your best. Thank you.
Senator Ignatius Datong Longja.
Mr. Senate President Owole Rocha Sokolocha, Imo West. Mr. President, for the fact that most senators are not presenting motions similar to Agatu does not mean that this is not happening in all nooks and crannies of our society. There's so much of bloodletting in our nation, much more than we have had during the Civil War. And it has called for concern. Nations that are obsessed with this insecurity should begin to think of the wisest course of action, not of debate and convention. I've said this severally. But perhaps I just rise to share some of my personal experiences as a governor of Imo State. And this might help in some of our decisions. It got to a point that, if you recall, in 2011, that my name and my pictures were in front of every newspaper, side by side with the story of kidnapping, to the point that I was imagining if I was the kidnapper myself, because of the number of stories. That gave me concern. And in Ohajegbema, literally, all the elders, chiefs, and children went on self-exile because some few young boys called the militant group from Ohajegbema, not more than 300 of them, sent everyone packing. That became a concern. I had several Security Council meetings to no solution. And it was becoming more expensive, having to send the police and army and pay allowances every day. and to no solution. What I thought, when one of the Israeli companies came to me to offer me a proposal on how to send CCTVs and machineries and how to catch the criminals, and I was given a bill of 4 billion naira. Meanwhile, my total allocation was less than 4 billion a month. I had to look inwards. The smartest thing I did was to call all my traditional rulers and convene a Security Council meeting, expanded Security Council meeting. And I said to them, today, you, the traditional rulers, are the chief security officers of your communities. And I proposed to them that we have set up what is called the controversial 40 of government, which I did, which is after federal government, state government, local government, I had community government. And it became a controversy in Nigeria, just like Ministry of Happiness and some of the things. And I remember people queried me from National Assembly as to why I am setting up a 40 of government. But I did so because of the urgency of them to reduce the criminal activities in my state. But what I did was I called the traditional rulers. And look at what I did, very smart. I said, today I have handshake with you as the chief executive officer of your community. And decorated them with a similar thing like my store. And every traditional ruler was happy, shaking hands, going back home as chief security officer. And eventually, they had that name. I was avoiding paying 4 billion to Israeli company to give me gadget because I didn't have the money. So I began to cut my coat according to material available, not according to my size. Then they went home smiling. And I said, I'm going to give you allowance, 20,000 naira addition for chief security because I didn't have the money. But within 3 months, the criminal activities in Imo State dropped by almost 75%. Let me tell you, let me remind all of us, that the best form of government is that which allows people to govern themselves. And the best form of security is that one which allows people to secure themselves before the intervention of the federal government. And as they all sat down, within 6 months, police were helped. Because what we lack in this nation is information. Information does not exist. And people who want to give information are scared that when they give this information, somebody will report them, and the armed robbers will visit them at night and kill them. This worked, but let me tell you how it all ended at that, with my story. Within 3 months, I had information, I developed what's called black book to all the community leaders. And under confidentiality, that I dare not reveal to them who are the criminals and kidnappers. Within 3 months, I had all the list of kidnappers in Imo State and where they come from. And that worked a lot for my system. What I'm saying, Mr. Senate President, is that what has happened in Agatu and what is happening in Ohajegbema and what is happening in all parts of this country is the same. We must rise and tackle this issue of insecurity once and for all. The people disturbing the peace of this nation are not more than 5,000 people. Give them a big number, 50,000. But 50,000 people, mostly illiterates, who never went to school, are busy keeping people like us now, educated people, on their toes every day, because there's no unity of purpose in the fight against insurgents and criminal activities in this land. I therefore propose that, Mr. Senate President, that you do convene as quickly as possible the issue of insecurity. Agreed, you have suspended every action of these red chambers until we finish the screening of ministers. But let me tell you, the insecurity issue in Nigeria is much more important than screening of ministers. We can even let them take a bow and go while we address this issue of insecurity. Because it will get to a point when coming to the Senate here will be a problem. And trust me, most of the...
Can you please round up?
What I'm saying is the urgency of now, today and tomorrow, to begin to tackle this issue of insecurity. before every day will become a corrosive thing to say, let's observe a minute silence. And standing for a minute silence is getting too much. If you know we can't take any decision, let's have a minute of silence for the ones that are about to happen. so we can all find peace. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Senator T.A. Chendo. I represent Abia Central. First of all, let me sympathize with the distinguished senator who is from that constituency and all the people of Benue State for what has happened to them. The first question, okay, I second.
Go ahead.
Yes.
You can second and, of course, make your contribution if you want to. Use your mic.
I'm making my contribution. The first question is to ask is, where are these militia people from? I don't think they are from Benue State. Because if they are from Benue State, they will not have the audacity to go to church and mosque and kill their brothers and sisters worshiping God for the peace and stability of their state. It's not done. I suspect that these people come from other areas. Your Excellency, in terms of security, I think Benue State as the food basket of this nation, and if we are very much interested in diversification of our economy, I think Benue State should be given priority attention in terms of security, just as we give to some states in the north. Why do I say this? In the ex-Senate, when security was an issue there, the governor was invited by the Committee on Police Affairs. When the governor came, he was asked questions, and the man exculpated himself, gave account of himself, how he was proactive. When he got information about insecurity, he reported to the police, and nothing happened. The documents are there. Secondly, I remember that it is in this Benue State that the President and Commander-in-Chief gave a directive to former IGP to go and handle the security situation in that place. And if possible, sleep there for 1 day, 2 or 3 days, or even 1 week. What did we see? The IGP just went there and vamoosed and went to Nasarawa State, a comfort area. So when you put these two things together, Benue people will feel that they are being marginalized in terms of security, that attention is not being given to them. Therefore, what my friend has said here is just a pictorial view of what has happened in Benue State, and every right-thinking person should condemn what has happened, because it can happen to any state. And time has come when the security agencies, what I have done is to place this on the doors of the police. I'm placing this on the doors of the police because they have been incompetent in handling the security situation in Benue State. And time has come when the military, the police, should think of having reserve. All these men who retired young from the army and from the police, who are in the village not doing anything, why not bring them together? Offer them, give them refresher training. When situations like this, they'll be called upon and they will do something in our own interest. Excellency, well, let me once more sympathize with them and pray that this thing does not happen again. We have security situation in the country right now, and every person should at least help in making sure that we live in peace and tranquility. Excellency, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Senator Gabriel Tou.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to empathize with the people of Agatu just as it reminds me of what is happening across states of the nation, from Plateau to Zamfara to Katsina and many other states. The attacks, violent attacks on communities, and the situation in the country is what I describe as the audacity of impunity. Because the nation is already sliding into the Hobbesian state, where life is brutish, short, and nasty. Mr. President, the brutality and mendacity with which these people undertake attacks on our communities, rooting out whole communities, displacing communities, is alarming. And the sophistication of the arms that they use is something that is mind-boggling. And where we are now is such that the entire nation is in a state of insecurity. And Mr. President, what you have said for this Senate to convocate a security summit, there's no better time for it than now. And I want to say, Mr. President, that along with the Agatu people, what is happening is that there are many of the people that are still in displacement following these attacks across the nation. And what is important, particularly in this rainy season, is to begin to look at ways in which the displaced persons and communities can be resettled. And that is very, very important, so that these communities and the people that are in displacement in IDP camps can have a means of livelihood by resettling them in their ancestral homes. I therefore wish to support this motion and all the prayers therein, and to particularly say that we should immediately, in line with what you have already said concerning the security summit, look at ways to convoke it as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there anybody against the motion? We'll go to the prayers then. In Agatu communities, and observe a minute's silence for the departed. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, direct the National Emergency Management Agency to immediately intervene to provide relief materials to the people of Okokolo in Agatu local government area. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the federal government to take proactive measures to curtail insecurity and malicious killings ravaging states of the Federation. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, urge the relevant security agencies to be proactive in order to forestall future occurrence. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 5, urge all the relevant security agencies to intensify the mop-up of small arms and light weapons in circulation across the states of the Federation. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. All distinguished colleagues, thank you very much. I could see during the interventions, the debates, that we have just been talking, and we are not being able to do anything. I think the Parliament is supposed to do that, really. The Parliament is supposed to discuss issues that border on national interest, but the Parliament also needs to work very closely with the executive arm of government to ensure implementation. And this emphasizes the need for follow-ups on our resolutions. And of course, if we want things to happen immediately, maybe we have to pass laws. So we also need to look at those laws that border on enhancing the security of the country. And of course, the appropriation is one law that we can do quite a lot with. But I also believe that it is beyond money only. The nature, the structure, and the architecture of the security agencies today tell us that there is need for review of the way they operate and the way they relate. And I believe that pretty soon, when our committees will be in place, these are things that our committees on security would really focus on, and I believe that we will be on the same page with the executive arm of government. But we should never be tired of discussing these issues until we get the solutions. Where else can these discussions hold, if not in the National Assembly, in the chambers? Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.